Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newest episode, the greatest episode, and possibly even the best episode of the French Bishop Chess Cast. My name is Rogan Geo Sloan, and today, like usual, I am joined by my co-host, National Master John MacArthur from New York, and he is going to be carrying this episode because I decided to stay up some ludicrous time in the morning and then get up at the ungodly hour of around about 9 o'clock or something like that. Anyway, yes, John has many things to say. Let's get on to it.
What else is new, Roken? You've stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning. Your
Yeah.
alarm just went off.
Well,
And we both are finishing the day on two different dates. This is an international time zone / time warped podcast, as you are recording this on a Monday. I'm recording it on a Sunday. This is the loveliness of this streaming operation.
oh,
But
absolutely.
the first thing that I just want to make note of is that you can find Rogan as Kingslayer Sloan on both Twitch, YouTube, and Kick, I believe.
Sometimes.
And I am Master Chess Dojo, all one word, Master Chess Dojo on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and you may also
Pinterest,
find me on
Threads.
all of the social medias as Master Chess Dojo on Threads, Instagram, and whatnot. And I field questions there quite often, and especially suggestions for future podcasts. But I think the most notable of recently passed news items, Rogan, that deserves to be recounted is that Kramnik found a platform on which he can beat Jose Alcantara Martinez. And it wasn't easy, but he did find a platform. He was +4 going into the final 4 games of the 36-game match. Yeah. He was +4, and he lost game after game until he won by a thread in the last round of the 36-game match to win 19-17. And I have to congratulate him on a fine and convincing victory. The guy is obviously not as strong by any means as Kramnik. The guy is obviously, he can't even hold a candle to Kramnik. He was lucky he drew a single game.
I know, yeah. Kramnik was just clearly stronger. You know, the miracle was how he kept losing while being amazingly stronger. So to create a little bit of a false dichotomy here, John, you wouldn't know that this match happened, would you? I mean, the news isn't all over the place, you know. I don't think chess.com has come out with part 2 of the little quite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not happy with the fact that it took place on a different platform in general.
Yeah.
Or that it had to take place on a different platform. And I know that all of the platforms are embracing this format, including IRL formats, because I guess Hans Niemann versus the rest of the world is going on in a variety of cities, and right smack dab in the middle of it, like Hans Niemann, I think, has climbed up to 16th in the world on the live rankings, thanks to the matches, and I think he's got 2 more matches to go. I could be wrong on the number of matches that he has remaining. But yeah, he's climbed up 11 places from where he was, thanks to matches against Vidit. Was it Vidit and
Giri?
And Anish Giri, right? Or is it Vitugov? Hold on, I can look at his recent games.
There's a bunch of matches with different people.
Etienne Bacrot is the current match. Yes, Etienne Bacrot is the current match. Vitugov, Vidit. It was Vitugov. Anish Giri was first in Utrecht. Vitugov in London, and he's playing Etienne Bacrot in Paris. And he is just gaining rating points hand over fist in all areas, because I believe part of the match is rapid and part of the match is classical. And I don't know for a fact that part of the match is not in blitz.
Yeah. I mean, so do you think the most galling thing for like chess.com is kind of the fact that it had to happen somewhere else? Like that would be. I think that would be the most thing. It's like that. It just they
That is the
couldn't
most
get to the
embarrassing thing.
professional standard. Yeah, they couldn't get to a professional enough standard to hold half decent chess with stakes involved. Like
It is unfortunate, but thanks to that match, I think Kramnik gained a couple of places. Actually,
probably yeah.
on the world standings, I think his rapid rating is definitely 2,700 flat, sort of like his heart rate, and his classical chess had to have improved as well.
Yeah.
But they did not play classical chess,
Yeah.
as it turns
I,
out.
so I mean, okay. So what? So this is the rematch of the rematch, essentially. John, can you give us the quickest overview of how that came to be, and
Well,
how you think that's important?
in the original match, the organizers were very inexperienced, as well as the technical issues that they faced. They did have a nice venue
It
for
only
the first
affected
one,
seemed to affect Kramnik, to be fair, which is my
and it
conspiracy
did
mind.
only affect Kramnik. That was the unfortunate part, right? And he made allusions to having the match on Chess. I believe that later, after his subsequent
House.com.
embarrassment and failure in that match, then the FIDE Online Arena agreed to host Kramnik. And FIDE, of course, not having any associated ties with any Russian organizations or entities,
No,
of course, we're happy to
the
have Kramnik.
Dvorkovich. Yeah.
So therefore, you knew that I actually knew that Kramnik was going to win. In fact, I think he thought he had it sewn up when he was losing game after game at the end of the match to try to convincingly close it out. I don't know
Right.
what kind of a tiebreak system they had in mind.
Yeah.
I think they had 4 games that were be blitz, 3+1 or something like that, and
I
then an
mean, you can't
Armageddon
play
game.
chess nearly as well after getting nerve gassed.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm very proud of Hans Niemann for taking on the world. And now I believe Levi Rosman is going to take on Pia Cramling in Stockholm in a similar format. He's got to gain some
Yeah.
rating points. The only thing I have to say is that he has
Stop
everything
Pia.
to
He's
gain
already
and nothing
dead.
to lose by playing her, as she is going to kick his tuchus up and down the sidewalk, the Stockholm sidewalk. I'm afraid, because she is no slouch. I don't know if he
Hmm.
chose his opponent very carefully, but I think I would have chosen my opponent a little bit more carefully than Pia Cramling.
I do suspect there was a bit of content involved. There is, they got the
Yeah,
Cramlings. Yeah. I mean,
exactly. It's a streamer thing for the most part. I feel like
he's
Artur's
mixing
Nixons is
his
at the end
gold.
of his rope, trying to help Levy at the moment.
Yeah, poor fella. Yeah, some of his videos are like, my daily struggles.
My daily struggle.
Yeah.
And Levy is reminding me of someone who's come out of retirement for one last job,
Mm.
and he realizes that he has to brush up on all of the new equipment that is available to him that was
Yeah.
not available back in the old days when we worked on mountain climbing equipment to climb the ranks of chess playing for the
No.
most part. Now we have all sorts of actually quick opening knowledge. And I would say
Mm.
that the one thing that's most important is that all of the openings work.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, all of the openings work. There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of the openings if you're a good player.
Well,
You
except
can
for like
wheel
the
out.
Alien Gambit and all the other the
I'm
England
afraid that
Gambit. I mean,
if you have the right opponent, those openings may work too.
wow. I mean, you have to have the
If you have
right
the right
opponent.
opponent.
You know, that
No, but
just
it's not. I'm not saying it
just suffered serious hit from opponent like that.
at
Is
the
that?
level that he's playing at.
Yeah.
No, I would not recommend the Alien Gambit or anything. But in general, having any opening phobia is going to be far from what you need. And in my chat today, as I was losing game after game, I was playing fairly well, but it just later in the game, I just managed to prove that I didn't know how to play chess. And
Mm.
I commented actually while I was in the throes of my third or fourth loss in the morning that I look like a guy that's only studied openings and did not study the rest of the game, which is true because I'm American. We were all raised on Fischer, and Fischer basically played 3 openings at first. He knew them so well that he became a grandmaster. You could do that in the old days. People couldn't prepare for you more than you could prepare yourself in those days. And you really just got by on being a terrible endgame player like Bobby Fischer was for a good portion of his career. He was not necessarily that great of an endgame player. He was a willpower player. He would will his way to the win, and he would never exchange pieces unless he was going into an endgame that he knew that he was winning. So today we have all these young players trying to strive to become grandmasters. And I can only think of Yasser Seirawan rolling his eyes as these players try to become grandmasters. I believe I did my Yasser Seirawan impression on a previous stream.
Yeah.
And if I haven't, I could do it again.
Well, go ahead. Well, I mean, not to put you on the spot.
You see, Rogan, in my day, no one ever strove to be a grandmaster. People wanted to be world champion. Every young American schoolboy wanted to be a world champion. Grandmaster was just something that happened, like crossing the street on your way to school. If you lived in a bad neighborhood, you may not make it to school, but you would certainly get across the street. I don't understand why every young player seems to be obsessed with becoming a grandmaster. That's not the goal. That is part of the journey. It's like $3 and the grandmaster title will get you on the subway, on the metro, on the bus. It's nothing special. If you can become world champion, now we're talking. That's what you really want. Aim higher. Becoming a grandmaster is not a lofty goal. That's like graduating high school. And anyway, I fell off on the end
I feel like
there.
a lot of professional chess players didn't graduate high school. But the point being,
That's true. And as a result, they decided they're going to become grandmasters instead.
They've got to be at that point, right?
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm fucking unemployable.
Yeah. In general, I feel for Levy on his excursion because he has to overcome a lot of knowledge that has gone by the wayside. For example, I think even this week, the Grandmaster John Fedorowicz had told several, or at least one of our students, about an opening not being playable.
Yeah.
And this opening is commonly played by Magnus Carlsen, Mehmed Hurov, all the top players today. This opening is played by all the top players today because of the new developments in the opening, which many of the top players have not bothered to study unless they're on the circuit. And even Sam Shankland would mention, the Dragon is a terrible opening. Never play that opening, never. And I think most recently in round 6 of the St. Louis tournament, Fabiano Caruana beats Nepo brilliantly on the black side of a dragon, not just any old dragon, an accelerated dragon, mind you, which might be considered in our day, in the old days. You just thought these openings were terrible, but in reality, they're not terrible. It's not the openings that were terrible. It was our understanding of the openings that were terrible.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, but also a thing that I think the biggest thing, unfortunately, with Paul Levy is that he's got to outwork his job. He's got to literally outwork the fact that he makes a living by saying the rook really loudly and doing things for online and very fast.
Did you clip that today, Rogan?
No, I did not clip you yelling the rook. It was quite hilarious. But the point being, though, I think is he's mixing his drinks way too much. I mean, I think people are trying to become grandmasters. They don't tend to give lessons usually. I mean, they start giving their chess lessons. They start, getting into the chess education system after they've become grandmaster, and after Magnus beats them bloody or something. I mean,
I don't know what Lucy does for a living, but I know that our old good friend, international master Victor Frias, basically was a stay-at-home international master while his wife, his lovely wife, was a doctor in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Now, ironically, I don't know living in Brooklyn, as it turns out, if Levy can rely on Lucy to carry the vast majority of the load. But that's literally almost what you have to do. You have to cancel all of your subscriptions. No more Netflix, no more Amazon Prime, no more Hulu, or Disney Plus.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is you don't want to lose the progress you've made, or like lessen the progress you've made. It's hard to let go of one thing that's on your plate. They bring another.
But we're talking about pivoting here. We're talking about pivoting your career in a general direction at a new level, and this has nothing to do with necessarily not streaming. It just means that he's going to have to refocus his stream. He's going to have to refocus his attention, his day-to-day attention, on only streaming and only learning and only studying. He can't give lessons. He can't teach in schools. He's going to have to really reel it back in certain respects in order to give his full attention to his quest. And his quest deserves it, basically. No one ever becomes let's say, a doctor or a lawyer by going to law school part-time. Meanwhile, trying to work full-time and do a bunch of other things.
Unless you're Mike Ross in Suits or something. But the point being...
That's right.
Exactly. I mean...
And even that, it was a little skeptical there.
Why does he want the Grandmaster title is an interesting question.
Also the motivation. Yeah, the motivation has to be super intrinsically deep for you to become a grandmaster.
Because let's be honest, he's vastly more successful than most grandmasters.
Yeah, he doesn't really need the grandmaster title. He has surpassed Eric Rosen for the most part, unless he made a side bet with someone that he's afraid to lose.
Well,
he quit this quest once. He started off on it. He literally said, "I don't have what it takes," and I'm afraid that was enough to manifest making this quest that much more difficult, which is unfortunate. It really is. Meanwhile, over-the-board tournaments are extremely draining and take a tremendous amount of commitment of your time. You're going to have to prepare for your opponent. You're going to have to sleep more than you normally do and not go in on very little rest, making bad decisions. And by the way, when you don't get enough sleep, you tend to be a little bit more emotional. You tend to be less objective. You tend to conclusions. If you have any ADHD or attention deficit, it's going to be enhanced by your lack of sleep. So almost everything goes wrong when you aren't completely rested and fresh. So
impulsivity,
it's far better to sleep between rounds of the World Open or any major two game a day event. Much better to sleep between the rounds, to be rested and be able to calculate clearly and have a level head on your shoulders than to worry about what openings the opponent plays next.
So for people who are wondering what we're talking about, so essentially what we're doing here is a concept-based thing. So we've ranted for about 10 minutes or something that people might not be interested in. So, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole of, we're gonna try and get some advice on from John about how to perform better at a tournament. And, and if you can't perform as well as you want to be, how can you keep yourself at a level you'd be reasonably happy with?
Well, Rogan, I think you actually had an over-the-board experience, and was it a rapid tournament?
Yeah, it was a rapid tournament. It was
not a positive result.
Well, no, it was slightly positive. I got 3.5 out of 6, so that's slightly more than half, which is something.
But you played a FIDE master in the first round.
Oh, yeah. I always get him in the first round.
You literally got 3.5 out of 5, sir.
Yeah, wow.
Because your odds of winning against the FIDE master, in theory, are 1 in 10. So it's basically
1 in 10 is a little much. I mean, let's not.
No, 400-point difference, or are you over 2,000?
I'm not over 2,000.
Okay, so
it depends on where you.
A 400-point difference is roughly 1 in 10. on average, based on the original RPAD ELO system. So literally, if you have a 1 in 20 chance or a 1 in 10 chance, it really doesn't make any difference for that one game. And you were playing some fairly decent players, and I'm sure that these players are playing more regularly than you at the moment, right?
Well, I mean,
Over the board.
I mean, it's a
I'm not saying your online experience does count.
I mean, it is a possibility that they play more over the board, but okay. So in the first round, I faced the FIDE Master. The second round, I faced a kid who's been doing it for about a year. He's not bad. He's about 1,300, something like that. Kind of crushed him. Did mess up a little bit tactically after winning 2 pieces. So I was up 2 pieces, and then I kind of blundered. I stupidly thought that for some reason I calculated that I could just trade and be fine, which I probably could have, but I'm not that skillful at 3 pieces versus a queen, or like 4 pieces versus a queen or something like that. So I'm not that amazingly skillful at that. But then he managed to like not use his queen as a defensive resource, so I just won after like the pieces started trading off. I was very, very tired for whatever reason, and I didn't see the obvious moves. Like it's not like I wasn't looking for checks, but I just didn't see that I had, 2-move threats
right away.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I was just like I didn't see half the battle. I still won that though after finding some half-hearted tactics and beating the 4 fella. The third round, I played a guy that I'd beaten in 2 blitz games before the tournament started. So I'd beaten the shit out of him. And this is when being a little bit tired, I think, really caught up with me, or just being a bit stupid. Because I played like a Jabava London playing E4. Okay, I had the knight backing up the D4 and E4 pawns. And I had a bishop and a queen battery trading off his bishop in the Piet's defense. So basically, he had a bishop on G7. So I traded that off. Then I pushed the H file. He did all the wrong counterplay. Very easy to avoid. Basically, up a piece after 20 moves. His king was open. My rooks were going to come to the center, and so he found a tactic that attacked 2 of my knights, and I had 2 moves. One was a danger level move to attack one of his rooks to just simply keep both my knights on the board and do that. But I thought I could simply just push the pawn at the passed pawn and then just back it up with the 2 rooks on the open files, because the H pawn had been traded. There was open files there. So I did that, and then unfortunately I ran afoul of the rules a little bit. I accidentally touched the wrong piece, and it means that he took that pawn, and now I just sacked the knight for nothing, and it was annoying as hell because I knew I was a better player than him. I proved I was a better player than him, and I just screwed it up and completely lost the game after that.
Were you though? Were you the better player?
I really was the better player. I know I was the better player. And it sounds arrogant, but I know I was. And because I knew what I needed to do to win. I picked up the wrong piece by accident. My brain was fucked. I don't know what I did, and I touched the wrong piece. And then
I'm going to go with you on that one.
Yeah.
Even though I believe that
once you touch
the character aspect is key.
Yeah, once you touch a piece in New Zealand Chess Federation rules,
in all chess,
you have to move that. Well, you actually have to move that piece to somewhere.
Right.
So
all regulation over the board chess that is rated in general should be touch move, unless your organization or your director does not know what they're doing. And I actually, relatively for a long period of time, I also held myself to touch move on stream. So if I touched something, I held myself to it, and probably I need to go back to that because of my recent results. I'm going to go back to holding myself to touch move on stream, and that will make my play that much better. The fact that people pick up a piece and tap it and move on to the next one actually makes both of us worse players. The person watching it cringes the whole time you're tapping on the wrong piece, that you're about to lose your queen if you move that piece.
Yeah.
And I just lose my queen ultimately too, because I move it right away without the tap, tap, tap. But
But
yeah, no, 3.5 out of 6 though, Rogan, is not a bad result, and
it's
that
not terrible.
experience with the touch move is priceless.
Yeah. But sadly, the next game I didn't deserve to. I didn't deserve to get the result I did. Like the third game was
I
just my tiredness
but
going 100%, where I had to stalemate trap a guy who, like, I mean, like you can tell that he's like not played very much, like, or he's just very low rated, and it's not.
Logan, I
It's my fault
disagree
for
with you
not
though.
thinking. It's my fault
I
for not using
disagree
my
with you.
time.
You deserve the win that you didn't deserve, and the guy before you didn't deserve the win that he deserved.
Yeah, well,
But so
if I had
therefore,
honest feedback,
that
then
luck factor does play into a lot of games, even though it's
if I
over
had
the
honest
board.
feedback about myself there with the game that I touched the wrong piece, is that if I
Uh-huh.
had been better at the end game, I probably could have still pulled that out. If I had been better in late
Right.
middle game to end game scenario, I probably should have could have still pulled that out. Even though
It takes a lot of
I
experience.
it does, but I didn't have that. That's where I think I
Not
can
just
honestly improve right there.
right, not just experience, but also end game experience. So that's the hard part, is that we don't always get enough end game experience by playing our online games. We get a rather
Resignation.
shallow end game
Resignation.
experience infrequently.
Yeah. And you get early resignations too, which is not such a big thing in over the board. I mean, well, at least in my level. I mean, people will fight till the bitter end. And I stalemate trapped a guy to get a draw. Very annoying. Didn't want to have to do it.
But you did it.
Yeah. Well,
You
yeah,
drew
I
him.
did.
So that was good.
Yeah, I drew him, which is some miracle shit right there. But what else? What else was happening? And then I beat some person, though I could still feel my calculation was just gone. Like I wasn't calculating the most basic attacks. I could definitely calculate. Like the most forcing ones, definitely easy to calculate. But ones where I had to figure out whether moving my knight and then what was pinned and what wasn't after I moved this piece and after I pinned this piece, because there was like a rook there. Like essentially I got a nice centralized knight with my queen on his back rank, and so his king was stuck in the center holding his
Nice.
rook and thing together, and so in the end I ended up checking him with my centralized knight and then removing the defender of his
Nice.
one of his knight on hang on E3 or E4. There was a knight he
Very
had
good.
centralized. Yeah. So that was the most forcing line, and it worked. But I couldn't calculate any other line, which is very sad. Like my brain wasn't working that way. So yeah, it was a very complex position, which is why I was trying to go for at least 3 candidate lines. But yeah,
So from this experience, though, I can tell
you need
that
calculation
you've
work.
already cataloged many important moments that you won't repeat and that
Yeah,
you will more than likely take advantage of other opponents who do something similar, like not falling for a stalemate trick if you are on the other side of it, etc.
yeah,
Things like that. Being well aware of the touch move rule when you are basically reaching for a piece. In the United
yeah,
States, we also have a little bit of the claw rule, because if your hand envelops a piece, even if you don't
mm,
touch it, if that piece disappears from view,
yeah,
it's the same as being touched. You can't just say, oh, I actually didn't touch it, even though nobody could see the piece
yeah,
inside my hand.
yeah.
No, but if the piece disappears from view, that is a touch move rule.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you reach for a piece, you
To be
run the
fair,
risk of having that happen.
when
But
I
all
play
that,
club matches, I don't tend to hold people to that.
I think,
Like people just blunder and they're like, oh, then I let them take it back. It's just something
no,
I don't.
don't do that anymore.
I don't feel comfortable
You're not
trying
doing
to
them a
do that.
service, though. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't. You're not doing them a service by letting them take back the move because of touch move. This has happened in tournaments too, between friends, and then the touch move happens later on in a slightly more important game, and you're not
Well,
getting the touch move back from your friend, and it breaks a friendship.
yeah.
And I don't know if we talked about stuff the previous time, but basically,
Yeah.
at the chessboard, all the
You are not a
friendships
friend.
and camaraderie falls aside. It's all
Yeah.
about trying to do the right thing the best possible way that you can.
Apologies and
And
chocolates come later. Yeah.
exactly. And then just buy them a drink later if you win. Whoever wins, buy them a drink later.
Mm.
If you're too young to drink, then buy them a double scoop with sprinkles or something like that. It's like
All
what do
that.
you do?
Yeah.
But on average, your experience was good. When you think that you should win against an opponent, it's not actually real for the most part. What you have to do is you have to play consistently good chess longer than your opponent plays consistently good chess. The person with the more experience in any given position may prevail. I could have less experience in a certain opening by accident. When I prepare for opponents, I do like to choose variations and opening choices where my opponents have little or less experience than all of their other openings. I like to at least be on a little bit of an even keel that way, because obviously all of the openings do several things. They're all going to activate all of the pieces. They're all pertaining to controlling the center. You just have to be aware of king safety and don't move the same piece too many times unless it's absolutely necessary. All of the openings follow these basic guidelines. And if you can follow those basic guidelines, regardless of which pawns you move or which pieces you move or which squares you control, as long as you follow up on those ideas, you are going to do amazingly well in every single opening. For example, in the last two games of today's tournament, I know that I played the Dutch in the last round against the 2300 player. And he claimed after the game that he had very little experience in the Dutch and he didn't really feel comfortable in anything that he was doing. Yet he played the best moves as white. For 7 to 8 to 10 moves, he played the best moves. As a strong player, he found them naturally. Yet he, after the game, said, I didn't know what to do against this opening. So if you add those two up, you'll see that he actually does know what to do. But because of his opening mindset, thinking that he has to know the opening, that he doesn't know the opening, and it undermines his ability to deal with the common problem. The opening is basically just another phase of the game in which the process of finding the best move is that much more important, especially since getting all of your pieces organized toward a better middle game will be in line.
Yeah. And then last round, I beat someone who I've played before and is a very, very strong online player, like 2100, something like
Nice.
that. They played some somewhat disrespectful opening, I think. Like they
Oh,
were
really?
yeah, like they were playing like A4 or something, and then like something weird like that with those side pawns. And so I just took the center and hoped for the best that came out of that. And I kind of crushed him a little bit. It was
That's the
it was
way to
kind of
do it.
satisfying. I like the guy, but like he wasn't being very respectful. Yeah.
But I just gave you the recipe that everyone knows, and you already know the recipe. I once had a father message me late at night because he was reviewing his son's online games.
Yeah.
And the son said, No, Dad, John never showed me what to do against that, what moves to make anyway, in his words, perhaps. So I go and I look, and it's not an opening not unlike 1A4, right? Where the student just built up a big center, developed the pieces, crushed his opponent off the board. And then it was such an unusual first move or two that the father felt compelled to ask the son, Did John show you what to do against that opening? And he goes, No, John didn't show me. So he immediately gets on his phone, texts me that, Hey, how can you not show him what to do against this this opening?
Yeah.
And then when I look at it, I'm like, yes, we did cover this. We covered this and all of the other bad openings that he could possibly play against. He knows what to do. At which point, his son did admit that he did know what to do, controlling the center, activating all of his pieces, being aware of king safety.
What a message to get, at night, eh? It's just
Oh,
like,
yeah. I was like, oh, my God, I didn't show him what to do. And this, I forget what, it was, he actually named the opening because, the online Chess.com and Lee Chess tell you the name of this opener. I'm like, I have no idea what this name is. I'm like, I
Yeah.
didn't show him what to do against this bozo horrific
Well, the
express
Eisenhower
variation of
pterodactyl.
the Zadroy variation, and I'm like, so I have to actually go and look myself, and it's just a terrible opening, and he crushed them off the board.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, yeah. So it just ended up with him getting a pinned knight to his queen, and then I had managed to get it. I had an open F file, and so I managed to put my rook and my king, rook and queen and bishop all attacking the things, and he defended it with a knight. Then I pushed a pawn and brought the other knight into where the pawn was,
nice,
to create a fourth attack. Fourth attack, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 attackers. And yeah.
Awesome. Also, notice how your board vision, and this is going to improve too, by the way. The more you do this, the more you have to recount this, the more you reflect upon this, your board vision is also improving. I remember one time when I was walking outside of Amsterdam Billiards East and the Upper East Side, and I saw 2 or 3 gentlemen standing outside the pool room, and they were using one of the squares of the window pane to talk about a rack that they had just played. The 1, 3, 7, 8, and 9 ball are here. I had ball in hand. I attempted this, and that, and placing the ball in the quarter pocket and the other ball in the side pocket, and then going 3 rails to get position on the 6, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like standing there as I watched them discuss this using an esoteric rectangular window pane as a pool table. And the other person then chimes in with a better pattern play on this rectangular window with invisible balls. And I thought, these guys must be pretty good to be able to do this, because the third player agreed with the first player for a variety of reasons that I don't recall. And basically the second player was adamant that his pattern play was better, which is quite incredible. And your board vision there also getting much, much better. Just like everyone's visualization process is going to be better. You're going to be better at naming the squares. And I'm very proud of you. And I am going to re-stress that sleeping a regular amount and a certain type of tournament diet where you get neither too hungry nor too satiated that you fall asleep at the board. You want to make sure you don't eat so much, carb out like crazy and then just fall asleep at the board because you're not going anywhere. Not a good idea. All in all, just have faith in yourself and your abilities. Work on your calculation and your visualization. Don't worry about the names of the openings or even what opening could occur. Yes, I could be giving you terrible advice based on what some insecure coaches out there give you. They'll tell you that you must know your openings. You must torture yourself memorizing your openings. You must memorize the openings better than everyone else has ever memorized the openings in the history of openings before. However, I'm going to tell you that's not exactly true. If you find one really good concept to throw at your opponent, one really good series of moves that are the second best of the nature in the position, and Magnus Carlsen and Emmanuel Lasker have basically earned their chops with these techniques. Basically, you're going to overwhelm your opponent with your ideas and not those of some grandmaster in a book whose moves you didn't understand.
Okay. Whew.
That was heavy.
Heavy stuff indeed. My first tournament. I'll get, now that I get a little bit of time, I'll, hopefully, the emotion is good because it gets you back to the training. But,
I hope you get to play 2 of these a month. Can you play 2 of these a month?
I can play every few months. Is a big rapid tournament, but I could probably play it once a week. I mean, if I went down to the chess club.
As far as something serious and structured, I would definitely recommend twice a month. Every week would be great.
Yeah, I'll have
and film yourself,
mate. Yeah,
film your game.
Not a bad.
It doesn't even have to be live. You can put it up later.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a strong player. You can just do some long form coffee chess rapid stuff. It's not as serious, but
Nope, that doesn't
This
work.
is Dunedin. What am I supposed to do? Like conjure up a tournament?
That's what I meant. It does the club organize a couple of tournaments a month. I was very lucky when I was coming up because it would be the first Saturday and the third Saturday of every month. It was like usually a first Saturday Swiss, third Saturday they would have quads, and I would play every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I would have plenty of time to study,
it's seasonal,
review my games.
Mostly the big tournaments here in Dunedin are seasonal. So you'll have the winter rapid, the spring rapid,
But the club events,
the club events are like classical, like every week, but like they're not. I mean, they're technically a tournament, but they're not a tournament. It's like classical, and it's terribly long. It's on a Wednesday.
I understand that they have a 1 game a week classical game, right? Usually.
Yeah.
But they should have a separate night. Like they could have classical on one night, rapid on another night, blitz on Friday nights.
No, they don't have that.
I believe you had a friend who was worried about how to promote more activity in one's club, and offering a variety of activities is absolutely essential to that.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a good idea. I'll actually write that down.
Play games with someone casually with no goal in mind.
Okay, we'll play $10 a game then. How about that? That'll put some stakes.
I wouldn't say $10 a game. Play a race to 10 for $10.
Okay.
First person to win the game for $10. Or you could play for drinks.
Yeah, well, I'm not confident I'll win.
Play shorter races for drinks. How long will it take to take care of a pint? Race to 5 or race to 4 for a pint.
Maybe. Sounds about right. So, but yeah, to all the people listening, John has...
Yeah, you use the numbers on either side of the chessboard, by the way. You use the numbers on either side of the chessboard with a coin or token. You move it up and down as each of your wins take place.
It does make sense. Yeah.
Either way
it works, probably. Yeah,
it works. And if you do have a gambling problem, you should not be following this particular advice. In fact, you should be calling 1-800.
I only gamble when I'm going to win, John.
It's definitely not gambling if you know you're going to win.
Yeah. It's like when I go into a pub with a chessboard, I'm not expecting to lose,
Right. But a variety of activities for the club, absolutely essential. Even the Marshal has Friday night blitz, Thursday night 4 rated games. They have FIDE Wednesdays for a certain category of player. They have FIDE Mondays for a certain category of player. They have 1-day events and 2-day events throughout weekends. And they have morning events. I see that one of my students got 2 out of 3 this morning, and I think he's just turned 7. He went to 1,500 from 1,400, so he gained another 100 rating points today.
Jesus.
And he will be flying higher than me in no time, so I'm already considering a grandmaster or the right stronger trainer for him as he nears my rating. I needed him to be not influenced by my personal biases in my statements, which do exist.
That's very fair. It's forward thinking. I like that.
No, I have to start looking now. He's within a 400 or 500 rating points. By the time he gets 300 points closer, it's going to be bad. I'll still be able to train him and give him good advice, but he's going to need someone else. And I have made the mistake of recommending opening-centric grandmasters. Even Marc Arnold ended up playing the French defense when he didn't believe that this grandmaster who played the French all the time would have him playing the French. And neither he nor I were French-structured players, and we were fishes out of water at that time. But, of course, we've learned a lot in the 10 years since that happened. That was around 2011, 2012. We've both learned a lot in that time, and we no longer have any of those biases that we had in the old days. By the way, Marc is roughly the same. Marc Arnold is the same age as Levy, more or less, maybe a year or 2 off of what Levy's age is. Maybe he's younger.
Yeah.
And he became a grandmaster, and he basically had a much more open mind. I made sure of it, than many of the other students that followed their coaches down those opening minefields. It's not good to think about the game in terms of whether or not the opening is going to win the game for you. It just doesn't. You win the game for you. But all in all, Rogan, this has been very good.
Oh, it's been an honor. You're a scholar and a gentleman always.
Well, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Until next time, this was episode 24, I believe. A couple dozen podcasts in the can.
Amen.
At least 4 of them I'm not proud of.
I'm proud of all of them. I like my children. It's like picking my favorite. That's so hard.
So everyone, do some chess every single day. Get plenty of rest. Eat well. Live well. And
Live long and prosper.
Calculation and visualization will also be doing well. Thanks, Rogan.